Vice President Joe Biden leaving his home in Delaware and heading to the battleground state of Michigan today. We want to show you this latest Change Research and CNBC poll out of Michigan. It shows Biden with 49% of the vote and Trump at 43% in the presidential race for Michigan. In 2016, if we recall, President Trump actually won Michigan by a razor-thin margin against Hillary Clinton. Today is going to be Biden's first stop to the state since becoming the Democratic presidential nominee. The president will travel to Michigan tomorrow. Joining us to discuss is Joseph Pinion, a GOP strategist. Welcome. We also want to welcome in Kelly Hyman, a federal litigator. Good morning to both of you. Excited to talk about this trip because I believe it was actually in Michigan, in Detroit, back in mid-March, where Joe Biden hosted his last campaign rally before the coronavirus shutdowns. So clearly a lot has changed since he was last there. Kelly, I'll start with you here. What do you think Joe Biden's going to do today and this election to win over the voters that Hillary Clinton couldn't do in 2016?
Well, I thank you so much for having me on the show. I think Americans need to think, are we better off today than we were 4 years ago? And the answer is no. We are dealing with a pandemic. We have over 180,000 deaths. My heart and prayer goes out to the people that are struggling personally, professionally, financially, because we are in a epidemic in regards to not only health care, but also in regards to our economy. We are facing record highs in unemployment, and people are struggling. And they know that Joe Biden is a moderate. He's going to bring back America, and he has plans for the future for the American people.
I'm sure when we hear from the president tomorrow, he would refute some of those claims made by Kelly. Joe, what are you thinking?
I mean, this is an interesting strategy that Democrats have employed. They somehow want the American people to believe that President Trump is personally responsible for a once-in-a-generation pandemic. They somehow want people to believe that poverty somehow sprung up like a rose from the concrete the day that Donald Trump put his hand on the Bible and took the oath of office, as if we have not been dealing with inequality in this nation for a very long time. And so here are the facts. The facts are that there are 7 million people that got jobs underneath President Trump that were previously unemployed before a once-in-a-generational global pandemic basically T-boned the global economy and also basically uprooted the lives of so many people around the globe. And so the question becomes, who do you want to be at the helm when you start dealing with the aftermath of this COVID-19 crisis, putting people back to work? Do you want somebody that actually put people in jobs? Do you want somebody that was the co-pilot for the slowest recovery in the history of the modern world? And I think that when you're talking about it from an economic standpoint, that's just dollars and cents that most Americans can understand.
Yeah, Kelly, it makes you wonder, too, how crucial this visit to this state is right now. Of course, Michigan being a key battleground state. Is he going to, talk to those people living in the state specifically and really try to make some promises that could win their votes?
Well, I think American people want change, and I think because people are struggling, especially in the state of Michigan, not only economically, but also personally and financially. And he's going to speak to the people, but also speak to the American people. As I said before, Joe Biden is a moderate. He brings a moderate philosophy.
His VP candidate is not so moderate, and at least many of the policies that she's pushing as well. Would you admit to that?
I would disagree with you on that. I mean, she was a former attorney general. She was also a state prosecutor. So I would disagree with you in that regards.
She's ranked as the most liberal senator in a few sort of online polls here. Joe, Senator Kamala Harris is not considered by many as moderate.
Look, I think Kamala Harris really is, pour her into a glass and she'll be whatever shape you needed to take the form of. And I think the form that the Democratic Party is taking is one that is racing left faster than the universe can expand. We're talking about policies that are out of step with the majority of Americans. And so, again, issue by issue, the reason why Kelly says that former Vice President Joe Biden is a moderate is because most people recognize that the Democratic Party ceased being a party of moderates a very long time ago. And so I think they're basically trying to dress their liberal policies up in sheep's clothing. when the reality is that they are talking about policies that have never worked in the history of the world. And I think that those are the things that keep Americans up at night. That's why Joe Biden is running around Michigan trying to make sure that those poll results end up being election day results, because I think if you Americans, I think the sentiments on Main Street are not necessarily what's showing up in these polls that actually show a race getting much closer in places like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina, places where President Trump won 4 years ago and where I think he has the potential to be successful as the fires continue to burn from city to city and suburbs all across this land.
Yeah, we'll keep our eye on the polls. They are constantly changing. We know what those polls were in 2016 and, of course, the results of that as well. So we are skeptical. But I wanted to show you this. It's an interaction between Kamala Harris and former President Barack Obama. They're talking about Joe Biden and his appeal to voters. We'll play you the sound and get your response.
The other thing that I think is, for me, was always great was those moments, and you never knew when they'd come, when you just have a conversation with, maybe it's a security guard in a building, or maybe it's some young kid who runs up. That if you have a joint event, he may be taking a little longer than what appears on the schedule, because he will be talking to every single person.
But I love that about him, too. I really do. And it's what the people deserve. It's what they want. Folks want to be seen.
Kelly, when you see this sort of candid interaction, I guess you could say, between the former president and Kamala Harris as well, is that part of the strategy here to show this side of Joe Biden? Because, we really haven't seen as much of an opportunity to see him interact with people because of this campaign cycle. So are we just kind of relying on old times and memories here?
No, I would disagree with that. I think we've seen a side of him, not only through his being vice president, but also going to be on the campaign trail as well. And I think it shows a nice side of him that he cares about American people. We have a president that cares about just himself. He doesn't care about the American people. And Biden does. He wants to bring about change. And as I said before, when you ask Americans, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? The answer is no. People are not. People are struggling personally and professionally. And I think that in 2020 in the election, that Biden's going to win.
Okay. I do want to just note, and what's exciting is on the program here, we're actually going to hear from this man, Jerry Wayne. He ended up getting in a heated gun control debate with Joe Biden at Detroit auto plant earlier on. So we're going to hear his side of the story today. So unfortunately, not every interaction that you would have with the voter is not as civil as potentially you'd like it to be, or as friendly as you could say. That's one example. You could make the claim for both candidates. Absolutely. Joe, we got about 15 seconds here with you. Your final thoughts?
I mean, Democrats want to have a nice little round table, good times episode, as if, President Obama was talking about those friendly conversations when he said people clung to their gods and their guns. So, look, I think the question about if you're better off today than you were 4 years ago, most people around the globe are struggling because of a global pandemic. But the question becomes, who do you want to lead America into a 21st century world? And that, again, co-authored the slowest recovery in the history of the modern world, that also, again, want to change America into something it's never been before.
All right. We'll leave it at that. Joe Pinion, Kelly Hyman, thank you both for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You got it.